Tonight, a man is dead and several bus passengers injured following a police pursuit in central west New South Wales. Also ahead, a third person charged over a riot outside a Western Sydney church. World leaders call for calm after reports of an Israeli retaliatory strike on Iran.
Siren, Collingwood with a third win of the season.
And Collingwood stormed back from 31 points down to topple Port Adelaide at the MCG. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Mariam Saab. A 32-year-old man has been killed and several others injured following a police pursuit in central west New South Wales. Police say they stopped the chase near Dubbo due to safety concerns before the car they were pursuing collided with a bus.
Upside down and crumpled, this car wreck is the result of a collision that left its driver dead and many more injured on a bus travelling the opposite way.
High praise to the driver. She only had a second to react and she was able to just sort of evade the car.
The vehicle's size and the bus driver's actions both playing a part in preventing more serious injuries. Seth and Abby were on board.
Head collisions, scratches, someone did something to their knee.
Police say they were responding to a domestic incident when they spotted a Mazda being driven away from the scene.
They identified the driver of that as being involved in the domestic, so they turned on that car and attempted to pull it over.
Officers say the driver then sped off, adding that after a short pursuit, they decided it was too dangerous to continue.
The vehicle was accelerating, braking, going off the side of the road and then onto the incorrect side of the road, which caused the police some significant concern, and that's the decision to terminate. But they were still making attempts to try and stop that vehicle by other means.
What those other means involved remains unclear.
I do recall in that 1 second window seeing lights, police lights and cars behind the silver car.
More than 20 people were on board the bus, the youngest a 12-year-old, the oldest 84. Most walked away, but 8 were taken to the nearby hospital.
Thankfully enough, all minor injuries as a result, which were minor injuries to the limbs, chest and facial.
Police will now investigate exactly what happened in the lead up to this fatal collision. The findings will shed light on the actions officers took during the pursuit and how a chase so brief ended so tragically. Zakasha Marlin, ABC News, Dubbo.
More people have been charged over the riot that broke out following Monday's stabbing of a bishop and priest in Sydney's southwest. The court heard that 45-year-old Sam Haddad allegedly yelled death threats at the 16-year-old boy accused of carrying out the attack. Mr Haddad has been released on bail, while the teenager has been charged with committing a terrorist act. A third person has been arrested and charged for making threats during the riot, which saw several officers taken to hospital and more than 40 police vehicles damaged. Police previously said they were looking to speak to up to 50 people involved in the incident. And social media giant X is refusing to take down content from its platform relating to the church stabbing. The eSafety Commissioner has asked all social media platforms to remove violent videos and images. But the Elon Musk-owned platform, formerly known as Twitter, says the request is censorship and the company will challenge the takedown orders in court. The Australian government has responded by saying that it won't be bullied by Mr Musk, while the New South Wales Premier has also hit back.
This is exactly as I'd expect from X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, a disregard for the information that they pump into our communities, lies and rumours spreading like wildfire, and then when things go wrong, throwing their hands up in the air to say that they're not prepared to do anything about it.
Locals in the Sydney suburb of Bondi have marked a week since the deadly stabbing rampage that claimed 6 lives. While businesses are beginning to return to normal, there are hopes that more can be done to prevent mental health-related attacks.
A particularly gloomy Saturday at Westfield Bondi Junction. The first day of weekend trade since 6 people were murdered inside.
I think it's a little bit quiet, but I've just noticed the feeling is different. It's sombre.
Some have a personal connection to the tragedy.
One of the victims is actually my husband's cousin. It's the 7th day, you know, the Chinese here. So, yeah, that's why I try just to pay the respect.
Retailers have asked for sensitivity with staff.
It's best to describe the mood at Bondi Junction to be quite sombre, and of course traffic has been down, which would be expected given the circumstances.
While the community here in Bondi begins to heal, questions are being asked about whether more mental health support is needed to help prevent tragedies like this. The government says it's open to making changes.
We have to answer the question over time as to whether that money's going in the right areas and it's being spent most effectively. I need to do that with evidence, and I'm confident that coronial inquiry will help direct the government's policy changes.
Experts say the man who carried out Saturday's stabbing may have fallen through the cracks of the system.
A lot of people with those very severe, lifelong mental health conditions like psychotic disorders, if they're not on the NDIS, they are falling between the gaps.
A candlelight vigil for the victims is set to take place at Bondi Beach on Sunday night. Sean Goodwin, ABC News, Sydney.
An explosion at a unit in inner Brisbane has left 2 people fighting for their lives. Fire investigators say the blaze was sparked by an e-scooter which was left on charge.
We're coming, bro. They're coming. It was a terrifying wake-up for residents at this unit in New Farm, with more than a dozen emergency service crews arriving on scene just after 9 a.m.
Yes, it was confronting. The firefighters had a little bit of difficulty getting access into the fire because it was well boarded up and secured. Dave Knezovic heard the explosion from next door.
It sounded like it's one of the jets coming over the river.
He jumped into action, attempting to contain the flames.
How did you try to put it out?
The garden hose.
Fire investigators have described the cause of the fire as a perfect storm. Visitors who had been staying in the lounge room of the unit left their e-scooter on charge, triggering the explosion. While the owners of the unit managed to escape the flames, the ABC understands the visitors weren't as lucky. A man and a woman suffering extensive burns were both placed in an induced coma before being taken to hospital. Another man in his 50s was taken to hospital, while 2 others were treated for smoke inhalation at the scene. Ariana Levy, ABC News, Brisbane.
Brittany Higgins has broken her silence following Monday's judgment in Bruce Lehrmann's failed defamation case against Network 10. The federal court found that on the balance of probabilities, Ms Higgins had been raped by her former colleague, Bruce Lehrmann. In a statement posted on social media, Ms Higgins says that she welcomes the judgment by Justice Michael Lee, but doesn't agree with all of his findings. Ms Higgins says that her health, memory and relationships had been impacted by the rape, and that she was devastated a rapist was given a nationwide platform to maintain his lies about what happened, she said. Ms Higgins has apologised for the hurt caused to her then boss Senator Linda Reynolds and Chief of Staff Fiona Brown, expressing regret at not finding common ground. Justice Lee's finding is according to the civil standard, which has a lower burden of proof than the criminal standard. Mr Lehrmann's trial in the ACT Supreme Court was abandoned, and there remain no criminal findings against him. He has always maintained his innocence. Pharmacists will now be paid by the federal government to visit aged care facilities to give older Australians the flu vaccine for free. Many residents have previously found it difficult to make a trip to their local GP and as a result haven't received the yearly jab. Health Minister Mark Butler says that aged care facilities believe having a pharmacist on site will make the process easier and increase the uptake.
At a time when it is difficult to get access to a local GP, they're calling out to their pharmacy, can you come and deliver the flu vaccination to the aged care residents you know so well? I mean, you're providing their medicines and you have this very close relationship and understanding of them.
Israeli and US officials are remaining tight-lipped about airstrikes that hit Iranian territory on Friday. Tehran is also talking down the attacks, which were reportedly fired by Israel in retaliation to Tehran's drone and missile barrage last weekend. In an interview with American broadcast television, Iran's foreign minister warned that if it's proven Israel did attack Iran, the response would be immediate.
The sound undeniable. The circumstances still unclear. Iran played down the attack on state-run media, claiming all was normal in the country.
Other than that, nothing has happened. Everything is back to normal.
Anonymous US sources told media that Israel fired 3 ballistic missiles into an airbase near Isfahan, but Tehran dismissed it as tiny drones shot down by its air defence system and claimed there was no damage or injuries. The UN's Atomic Energy Agency says no nuclear facilities were damaged.
The sound in Isfahan was not an explosion. It was our powerful air defence firing a suspicious object.
They're more like toys our children play with, not drones.
The country's president made no mention of the strike, which many see as a response to Iran's drone and missile attack on Israel last weekend. Tehran says that unprecedented attack was its own retaliation to the killing of 2 Iranian generals in a presumed Israeli airstrike on a consulate in Syria earlier this month. Washington refused to weigh in on this latest attack.
We do not have any comment.
We're committed to Israel's security. We're also committed to de-escalating.
Israeli officials have not commented either. This muted response from both Tehran and Israel might suggest that both sides don't want to escalate things further. The 2 regional powerhouses have been in a shadow war for years, but these recent direct confrontations have marked a new dangerous chapter in hostilities.
It really does appear primarily that this was a signaling exercise by Israel to demonstrate to Iran what it could do without really doing it.
While Iranian authorities have avoided blaming Israel directly, its people have not. It's hard to predict what comes next in this dangerous rivalry. Isabella Higgins, ABC News, Jerusalem.
1 person has reportedly been killed and 8 wounded in an explosion at a military base 50 kilometres south of the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. The person killed was believed to be a member of the country's Popular Mobilisation Forces, a security outfit recognised by Iraqi authorities that began as a grouping of armed factions, many of them close to Iran. The PMF described the blast as an attack. The Iraqi military says no drones or fighter jets were detected in the airspace in the area at the time of the blast and are investigating. And tensions in the occupied West Bank continue to rise on Saturday. It follows an Israeli military raid in the Nur Shams refugee camp, which killed at least 4 Palestinians in the West Bank. The Israeli military said 4 soldiers were wounded in the operation. Meanwhile, at least 9 people, including 6 children, have been killed and several others injured in strikes on Rafah in southern Gaza overnight, according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. 1 strike is reported to have hit a residential building. According to the ministry's figures, at least 34,039 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes on Gaza since October 7. The toll in Israel stands at least 1,139 dead, with dozens still held captive in Gaza. NATO has agreed to provide Ukraine with more air defence systems after a direct plea from President Zelensky. And the US Congress is set to vote on a crucial bill. If passed, it will unlock billions of dollars in defence funding for Ukraine.
The aftermath of the deadly Russian airstrikes that hit the Dnipro region and the grim task of searching for any survivors.
The house was burning, everything was falling down, but it was also dangerous to run outside.
2 years into the conflict and more than 10,000 Ukrainian civilians have lost their lives. 2 children believed to be among the latest casualties.
The first thing I saw was my balcony on fire. Then I realised that something had flown into it.
Ukraine's president started the day meeting with troops on the front lines. The Donetsk region in the east of the country has been under heavy bombardment from Russia as Putin's troops continue their push towards the west. President Zelensky stopped by a hospital to meet injured soldiers and handed out medals in thanks for their service. The visit was ahead of a NATO Ministers' Aid meeting, where Zelensky made the point that Israel wasn't left to fend for itself during Iran's massive airstrikes.
Putin must be brought down to earth, and our sky must become safe again. Choice whether life is indeed equally valuable everywhere.
And they listened. NATO alliance members agreeing to provide more air defence support for Ukraine.
We have to remember what this is. This is a war of aggression where Russia is attacking a neighbour, attacking Ukraine. Ukraine has the right to self-defence.
Movement too in Washington, D.C. After months of delays and deals, the US House of Representatives is set to vote on an urgent aid package for Ukraine worth $94 billion.
We have been clear since October how critical it was to get that Ukraine aid to the brave people of Ukraine who have been fighting to protect their democracy.
Support that can't come fast enough, as more Ukrainian cities are targeted, residential homes destroyed and lives shattered. Jenny Lavelle, ABC News. Police are reviewing security arrangements for Donald Trump's historic hush money criminal trial after a man set himself on fire outside the courthouse. Emergency crews were called to a New York park after witnesses say they saw the person throw pamphlets into the air, douse himself, and then set himself ablaze. The man was rushed to hospital in a critical condition, but later died. Authorities say the man didn't appear to be targeting the former US president. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi is visiting Papua New Guinea for a bilateral meeting with his PNG counterpart. The meeting comes after PNG's Foreign Minister reassured Australian officials earlier this year that PNG and China weren't working on a security pact. Let's go to our PNG correspondent Tim Swanston for this report from Port Moresby.
In a sign of the deepening ties between China and Papua New Guinea, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is in Port Moresby this weekend to sign several agreements and meet with PNG Prime Minister James Marape tomorrow morning. Mr Yi was received at the airport for the brief visit. He's met this afternoon with PNG's Foreign Minister Justin Tichenko. China's Foreign Minister was last in Papua New Guinea 2 years ago. That was part of a broader regional visit that saw Beijing walk away without a highly sought-after regional security and trade deal. Of course, as far as Beijing's desire to press its security interests in the region, we've seen significant and sweeping deals signed with PNG's neighbour, Solomon Islands. Earlier this year, PNG's Foreign Minister Justin Tichenko went to lengths to assure Australian officials that no security pact was being sought with China. Australia signed its own bilateral security agreement with PNG last year. Mr Yi will walk away from this visit with deepened economic ties between the two nations. China ranks as one of Papua New Guinea's top import and export partners. PNG, while a large resources exporter in the form of gold and gas, is looking to bolster its agricultural exports. It's expected several MOUs will be signed today, largely focused on agriculture. Mr Yi will conclude his visit with a courtesy call on PNG Prime Minister James Marape tomorrow morning. After that, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will fly into Port Moresby on Monday to walk the Kokoda track in a symbolic gesture that certainly highlights the shared wartime history of Australia and Papua New Guinea.
Australia's expenditure over elite sports stadiums have once again come under the spotlight. Controversies over Brisbane's Olympic plans and Melbourne's decision to ditch the Commonwealth Games have raised questions over how funding decisions are made. But a new way of building sporting infrastructure could change the way that stadiums are constructed.
When investment company 6-5 was awarded a licence to set up new Canadian soccer club Vancouver FC, it saw an untapped market.
We wanted to be the initial, if you want to call it, test pilot
to really showcase what the prefabricated stadiums can do and what sort of possibilities comes out of it.
The Vancouver Stadium it built seats 6,000 and can be expanded as more money from the city becomes available. The modular rectangular stadium concept is taking off, its bottom line more palatable than recent stadium spends in Australia or the controversial proposed AFL stadium in Hobart.
Because you're not spending 400, 500, 600 million on a conventional concrete stadium, you're drastically reducing the cost, and you can do it in such a quicker time frame.
6-5 has already held talks with several A-League clubs, including Western United, which has set up a base west of Melbourne's CBD. It has a temporary ground with a stadium to be built within 3 years, and modular options are being looked at.
It's build what we need, and have a couple of year window. So we might start with a 10,000 capacity and grow to the 15 that grows to a 20 that grows to a 30. But we'll grow as the demand grows.
While modular stadiums have caught the eye of a growing number of clubs around the world, they're not without their critics. English side AFC Wimbledon used a modular structure for part of its new stadium, and the unconventional design has been mocked by rival fans. But some A-League fans are intrigued by the idea, including frustrated Brisbane Roar supporters sick of playing at the huge Lang Park.
We won't grow unless we end up with a better product, and the product at the moment is not good because of the conditions.
The A-League says modular stadia and new technologies are an attractive proposition and will continue to explore them. Matthew Smith, ABC News.
The AFL has conceded Adelaide should technically have been awarded a holding the ball free kick on the siren on Friday night in its 3-point loss to Essendon. Meanwhile, Collingwood has stormed back from 31 points down to run over the top of Port Adelaide at the MCG.
A third straight win for the reigning premiers, putting the competition on notice.
Is it a season-defining win? The Pies too good. 42-point winners.
It's shaped as a matchup of contenders, and Port showed why, kicking 6 of the first 7 goals. Jason Horne-Francis bursting through to put the Power well on top in the second.
Could he? Yes, he could! Wonderful finish by the Hornet.
With their backs against the wall, Will Hoskin-Elliott provided a spark for the Pies with 2 goals. Collingwood turning the game on its head with the next 6 to snatch the lead at half-time. The home side didn't look back after the break as Lockie Schultz found back-to-back majors, Pat Lipinski with a career-high 4 goals as Collingwood surged home in style.
Heads long, puts a cherry on top. I thought our football after probably the first 20 minutes was really good. Our pressure, our heart, our ability to win the footy and then get out was really good.
Last night, Essendon moved back into the top 8, winning a 3-point thriller over the Crows. Another match marred by controversial umpiring. Adelaide denied a free kick on the final siren after Sam Draper dove on the ball. The AFL today conceding it should have been called holding the ball.
I'm not going to make a comment around umpiring. That'll just add to the night.
There are a lot of decisions holding the ball for and against throughout the night. We'll obviously focus on the one in the last, couple of seconds, but I can show you a couple of others too if you like.
The loss leaves Adelaide 14th on the ladder with just 1 win from 6 games this season. Cameron Slessor, ABC News.
The Penrith Panthers have secured their 4th win of the season, defeating West's Tigers by 16 points. The defending premiers rise to 3rd on the NRL ladder, but were far from the unstoppable premiership winning side of recent years.
The Penrith Panthers took their game against Wests out to Bathurst.
Here they come, the Panthers.
The Tigers fumbled early and the Panthers pounced.
It's so clinical. It's Penrith.
Both sides looked clumsy in the second half, but West's porous defence paved the way for Penrith's 22 points to 6 win, finished off by outgoing New Zealander James Fisher-Harris.
On the burst, and Fisher-Harris scores!
Who yesterday penned a 4-year deal with the Warriors from next season.
A bit emotional, obviously. I've been here for 10 years now, since I was a kid.
In Darwin last night, the top-end locals witnessed the Dolphins at their best.
And the Finns are up here in Darwin.
Overcoming an injury crisis and the absence of ill coach Wayne Bennett, the Queenslanders destroyed Parramatta 44-16.
They're scoring tries for fun.
I'm very proud of the effort, and there's plenty of reasons, I suppose, for us to have excuses for ourselves and not come up with a performance, and we didn't do that.
A second-half onslaught saw the Dolphins run in 40 unanswered points, including a hat-trick from Jack Bostock.
He got there! Tongue-wagging and all.
Putting on the club's highest-ever score.
They are running over the top of them.
We're a part-time footy team at the moment. We pick and choose when we want to play because that second half wasn't good enough.
Earlier, Parramatta-bound Zach Lomax guided the Dragons to an 18-point victory over the Warriors.
It's a brilliant try!
The team was outstanding. I think we turned up so very well defensively, and to do it in front of a packed-out crowd, it's unbelievable.
For the Red V's fourth win this season, Chloe Hart, ABC News.
We'll stay with the NRL and turn to a tough contest between the Manly Sea Eagles and the Gold Coast Titans. It's gone down to the wire, with the Sea Eagles winning by 34 points to 30. Manly shot out of the gates early with 2 tries in the first 10 minutes before Gold Coast fought back. Kieran Foran's ball work proved to be all the difference, giving the Titans the lead against his old club after the first half. The Sea Eagles then responded strongly after half-time with a tight finish in the high-scoring affair, one that saw both sides reach 30 points and above. And Melbourne City remain in the hunt for a finals berth with a 2-1 win against the Western Sydney Wanderers in the Men's A-League. Brazilian import Leo Natel opened City's account in the 28th minute, and Mariam scored the second before half-time. The Wanderers now need a win and other results to fall their way in the last round to make finals. Meanwhile, the Wellington Phoenix let a chance to go 3 points clear on top of the table slip through their fingers with a 1-1 draw against the Newcastle Jets. Captain Alex Rufer failed to convert an injury time penalty in the final minute of play. The race for the Premier's plate is still alive, with only 1 point separating Phoenix from the second-place Central Coast Mariners. Let's take a look at the weather in the capital cities for Sunday. A rainy day for Brisbane. Mostly sunny in Sydney, cloud clearing in Canberra, partly cloudy in Melbourne and Hobart, mostly sunny for Adelaide. A sunny day also in Perth, clear skies there for Darwin, getting right up to 33 degrees. And finally, some lucky South Australians were treated to a rare glimpse of the aurora australis early this morning. Photographer Simon De Luca Cardillo braved the cold to capture a vibrant glow passing over the sky near Kaipo Forest in the southern Adelaide Hills. He waited for hours before the natural light show came to life at about 4:30. And that's the latest from ABC News. I'm Mariam Saab. Thank you for your company.